you know, the latest reports indicate that the talks are back on after the boycott by the so-called developing countries earlier this week. To what extent, in your opinion, do these boycotts represent real substantive disagreement, and to what extent is a kind of theater or a kind of bargaining tools? Do they have a chance of maybe derailing the negotiations? What do you think?
The first point is that this entire exercise here in Copenhagen is really a sort of Nuremberg rally. Nothing of any substance is being negotiated or agreed here at all. That has already been done somewhere else. And all that is happening here is a jamboree, a celebration of how green we all are today. And you rightly used the phrase in your introduction, street theatre. That's really what it is. It's all for show. Even the African nations' boycott was for show. And the way the script for this show is written, how do I know? Because I've seen so many of them before, is that you always have lots of left-wing demonstrators making a noise. We even had communist flags out in the street in Copenhagen in large numbers on Saturday. And that indicates that in fact we are, as I have long said, dealing with the re-emergence of the red dressed up, disguised as green. So we've got all of that going on. We have a sort of Hitler Youth marching in and breaking up meetings. Of course, the Hitler Youth were also left-wing and also green organisation. One forgets, and one shouldn't forget, that Hitler's movement, the National Socialist Workers' Party of Germany, had many green policies. They banned hunting, they set up the first national forests, which were going to be forests that were everlasting, protected forever. These were all green policies implemented by the Nazis. So you have the same authoritarianism and intolerance among the people you meet in the demonstrations as you used to get at Nuremberg rallies or Hitler Youth marches. But behind the scenes, what is going on is that all of this has, of course, been decided among the great powers. And what is going to happen is they're not going to have a treaty. They're going to have a political agreement which will be long on rhetoric, long on aspirations, short on specific detail, because the West isn't going to be willing to pay the kind of money that the third world countries are demanding in alleged reparation for climate debt. That was never going to be a flyer. All of that sort of very extreme stuff was not going to happen. The danger, I think, is the one thing that is going to happen is there will be, or if you like, there already has been, an agreement that the mechanisms of what could very easily become powerful enough and wealthy enough to become a world government are going to be set up. Every draft of the treaty that I have seen, and I've had to fight to get each one, because they're doing their best to keep it all secret, has shown that the bureaucratic structure of several hundred interlocking bureaucracies that they have set up, that is something which they are planning to do even if nothing else happens, and that in itself will cost the West a fortune. So that is the first thing that I think they will do out of all this. As for the demonstrations and the boycott and the suggestion that no agreement will ever be reached, all of that is the usual street theatre, the usual presentation of how to keep the media interest. Because if they knew at the outset that it's already been agreed, there would be no excitement. So to maintain the excitement, they have these manufactured rows that happen, leaked documents, we had one of those, now a walkout by a major set of delegations, we've had one of those. They're running out of tricks, actually. I'm not quite sure what the next one's going to be, but we've only got a few more days to go. And then at the end of it, They will maintain the tension right till the end. They'll pretend that no agreement has been reached, and that they'll begin to say no agreement can be reached, irreconcilable differences between the West, the guilty parties in all this, and the hapless third world countries who need to be helped anyway, and they're going to be the major victims of climate change. That's the rhetoric that's being talked. Of course, nobody is going to be a victim of man-made climate change because our effect on the climate is minimal, and that's now known, but don't try and tell anybody here that. They just say, oh no, there's a consensus. There is, but it's a bureaucratic and not a scientific one. So what they will do is they will say, right, we'll bring it right up to the wire, we'll go into, and I can bet this will happen, an all-night session after President Obama is here, so that he takes the chair at the session, brings the parties together, and then early in the morning, just in time for the main news stations around the world to pick it up, there'll be an announcement from these people. They'll come tottering out of the meeting with their ties around their ears and the stubble on their faces and the bags under the eyes and the wan smiles on their faces as they say, at the 11th hour, we've done it. But all of this was in the script before this conference began.